my dear sewing friends, it's Alisa here. I'm so happy to see you here and welcome back to my Sew Easy series. Today we have another really fun, quick and easy project. Take a look at this one. Now here we see the always popular peasant top, and as you know they come back every spring and every summer, and this variation has a square-like neckline and gathers everywhere. We see gathers at the top of the bodice, at the sleeve, and on the bottom of the garment as well, which makes it really easy and really effortless to wear. Fabric wise, I have a couple of interesting choices here from my fabric stash, and you can use both knits and wovens, and I actually want to create this top particularly for these pants that we made in the last Sew Easy episode. And by the way, I've gotten so many compliments on these, and somebody even took a picture in the store when I was wearing these. So yeah, these are definitely a winner. So comfortable, and I want to make a top that will create sort of like a no-brainer ensemble, sort of like a summer uniform for the entire season. Now here are a couple of things that I really want to mention. Number one, it really is simple and straightforward, and probably a lot simpler than it seems initially. And number two, there are many ways how you can achieve this look, and the most obvious of them would be to use a raglan sleeve pattern and modify that and go from there. So if you have one, feel free to use it. Then of course you can use your bodice block of woven or knit variety depending on what fabric you're using, what style you're going for. And then there's this way, which is by using a simple traced t-shirt. So if you haven't traced your t-shirt yet, then I do have a full video tutorial on how to do it, and that's how I do it, and it gives a really good result. And this t-shirt is the one that I'm actually wearing on me, so it makes it easy because you see the visual right in front of you. And note that this t-shirt isn't super oversized, it's not boxy, it doesn't have a drop shoulder, and it doesn't have too much room. So keep that in mind when you're choosing your own base. Now first I'm going to trace my front and back with the sleeve, just like you see me do on your screens. Now here's a really important moment. So I've actually decided that I'm going to be using these two fabrics for my top. So this is a really beautiful yellow. I think it's gonna go really well with this green. And this is cotton lycra jersey knit. And this is just cotton knit. So both of these fabrics are knits and they both stretch. And that's why I'm using a stretchy garment like t-shirt as a base for this project and for these pattern adjustments. And of course, yes, you can use your knit bodice block for this as well. In fact, that's what I would usually use for pattern adjustments and future ideas and pattern drafting and whatnot. I just thought that let's start with the t-shirt this time because it's a lot easier to get started with a traced t-shirt than with a knit bodice block. So I truly hope that this will give you that courage, that little creative push to make your own patterns and to create beautiful clothes. First, to create a square-like neckline for my top, I'm going to take about 3/4 of an inch away from each shoulder and mark those points on the front and on the back. Then I'm going to determine how deep I want my neckline, and therefore I've decided to lower my neckline by about 1 inch in the front and the same amount in the back as well. Once I have those points, I'm going to square lines from them, and that is going to create a new front and back neckline. Here I want to create a straight side seam, so I will take a straight line down from the bottom of the armhole, and I will be adding quite a bit of ease a little bit later to this bodice, so I'm not really worried that we are sort of chopping some of it off as of this very moment. Next, I'm going to lower the armhole by about 1 inch, and as always we're repeating this on the front and on the back pattern piece as well. Now I'm going to connect this new point with the neckline. I could leave it as is as a straight line, but I decided to curve it in just by a tad bit, and this is not going to change much, just going to look nicer in my opinion. And at this point I think we can see that this whole pattern is starting to take shape. To determine the length, I just measure down the center front from the neckline all the way down, and then I mark that on the pattern. I have outlined the new pattern in blue so we can see a little bit better. And now I will cut these apart. So here, before I cut off the sleeve, I will actually copy the curved line by folding it in half. And this will ensure that these pattern pieces match when we're ready to assemble them. Now I'm going to separate the sleeve from the bodice, and here I just want to make sure that I mark my pattern pieces, the fold placement, direction of the stretch, and of course which pattern piece is which, meaning the front and the back. So for the sleeve, we're actually going to be using a slash and spread method, which we use quite a bit on the channel. And with that method alone, you can really create some amazing pattern drafts and really fun garments. Let's get started with marking the slash lines first. Here I'm only working with the top part of the sleeve since I don't want to touch and distort the armhole curves of the sleeves, which are then going to be aligned and attached to the bodice. Each of my slash and spread lines are just about 3/4 of an inch apart, and I'm just doing this approximately. Once I have cut all of these apart, I place them on a piece of scrap paper so that way I can tape everything down a little bit later. And then I spread each of these segments also just about 3/4 of an inch apart, which in total is going to give me about 6 inches of ease in my sleeve. Here you can see that the top of the sleeve now looks all sorts of jagged, so I'm just going to tidy it up by creating a really nice smooth curved line on the top. And once that is done, now we have the front pattern piece, the back pattern piece, and the sleeve. And we are ready to move on to cutting the pattern pieces out of fabric. As I still need to add ease to the bodice, you see me do it here right on the fabric. So I placed my pattern about 3 inches away from the folded edge of the fabric, which will give me 6 inches in total of ease in my front and in my back bodice. As always, I don't add any seam allowances in the patterns that I draft, so I have to add them as I cut my fabric. The only regular seam allowance is going to be on the curve of the sleeve, that is going to be on the front and the back pattern piece, and of course on the sleeve. All of the other seam allowances are going to be equal of the width of my elastic. Here's another thing to remember. All of the edges where we're going to be attaching elastic, we're going to be folding it in like a facing. So don't forget to cut your seam allowances like that. Now, doing this on the curve of the sleeve cap is quite fiddly just because it's a curve, but it is quite a smooth one and the fabric is stretchy. So you know what? I'm just gonna make it work. The sewing part itself is really easy, and a top like this will come together super nicely on a sewing machine, but I'm actually in a pickle because as of right now my sewing machine is in service, so I'm left with a serger and a cover stitch machine. So I will do my best to complete these tops on those two machines. So anywhere where you will see a serger or a cover stitch machine, just go ahead and substitute it for a zigzag stitch, a triple step zigzag stitch, or perhaps a twin needle if you would like to. Step number 1 here is attaching the elastic. Now I have cut my elastic the same width as all of the original pattern pieces before adding any ease. Now, placing elastic on the wrong side of the fabric, aligned with the edge of it, I'm going to sew it on. And sometimes sewing elastic down, especially when you really have to stretch it, can be a little bit tricky, especially when you get to the very end of the elastic. So let me share with you a neat little thing, super simple, what I do in order to sort of make it easier and the end result nicer. I will fold the elastic down and top stitch it with a cover stitch machine, stretching it flat as I go. And I will repeat these steps on all pattern pieces that make up the neckline. Once that is done, I just need to put this together like any other raglan sleeve top. But I will go ahead and baste it first because I want to try it on, and if necessary, make final adjustments before I sew it all together. And here, yes, I did try it on and it was just a tad bit too loose to my taste. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to adjust all pattern pieces just by about 1/2 inch, and that will do the trick. So for the elastic on the hem of the sleeves and on the bottom of the top, I don't want those two to be tight because what happens in summertime, you get really hot and it just starts rubbing. So I really want some room, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to take a measuring tape or elastic, whichever one you have, and I'm just going to measure how wide I want those openings to be. And then of course I will need to make sure that whatever is the length of the elastic that I cut, that I can actually stretch it in order to be able to gather all of that hem of the sleeve and on the bottom as well. While I'm getting this done, I really wanted to say thank you so much from the bottom of my heart to the members of the channel. Thank you so much for your support, and make sure that you check out members perks that are available as a part of your membership. Almost every week there is a new members extra video. There are sneak peeks of the upcoming project, of course some downloadable material on Google Drive as well. So definitely check out your members perks, and thank you so much for your support. All right, this is the final stretch. Here I need to tuck in all serger tails, and as always, all detailed tutorials for sewing techniques, for drafting techniques, and how to put together a raglan sleeve shirt you will find on my channel. And I also want to stitch down the seam allowance right here at the neckline, so that way it's nice and flat, and I'm going to do that by hand. Now in shirts and blouses like that, even if you made it yourself, sometimes it's really hard to identify where's the front and where's the back. So here's a little label I received as a gift from a sewing friend, so it's gonna go on as well. And once done, here's the final reveal. I'm excited, and I haven't worn this type of style of clothing in a while, so I'm really happy that I decided to give it another go this year. And I truly love a piece that is simple yet really versatile, because you can dress it up, you can dress it down, you can put like a piece of jewelry or a piece of accessory over here, or maybe a little scarf. Or imagine if you make exactly the same pattern out of 2 layers of chiffon or maybe some sort of embroidered fabric. That would really be amazing. Now for me, this fulfills the whole outfit that I was going for, and I'm really happy about that. Plus, here's another thing. I love when clothing not only looks good, but is also really comfortable. So the question that I had, or the question that I was most worried about, is if these are actually going to stay in place when I really move around. So let me just frantically wave my hands around and see if they stay in place or if they slip. Next up, I have 2 videos for you to watch. This one is going to show you how I made those green palazzo pants that are paired together with this yellow shirt. And this one is going to give you some really basic, simple tips and tricks on how to sew knit fabrics on your sewing machine. And thank you so much for watching. I truly hope that you got some positive energy out of this video, and happy, thoughtful sewing. I'll see you very soon in another video. Bye!